Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vshal, Dahiya, and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and global issues as well. Today we're going to talk about the issue of candidates with criminal records in elections. Now, election season is in full swing in 5 states. Approximately 1/5 of India's population will cast their vote between 10th of February and 7th of March to choose their representatives for 690 assembly constituencies spread across these 5 states, which includes Punjab, Goa, Manipur, Uttarakhand, and the most populous and politically significant Uttar Pradesh. One issue which has again taken the center stage in these elections is the issue of candidates with criminal records. Now, the judiciary has sought to curb the menace of criminalization of politics through several judgments in the past and attendant directions to the government and the Election Commission as well. In pursuance to the directions of Supreme Court of India's order in 2017, 12 special courts were also set up in 11 states for expeditious trial and disposal of criminal cases involving elected MPs and MLAs. However, political parties continue to trade allegations on the issue of fielding candidates with criminal records. How can this issue be tackled effectively, and what are the political parties doing in this particular regard? For more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of experts. And let me first start by introducing them to you. Beginning with, we have with us Mr. Rakesh, who's joining us. He's Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha from BJP. We also have Ms. Amee, Yajnik, Member of Parliament from the Upper House again, and a spokesperson of the Congress Party as well. Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari is also joining us. He's the national spokesperson for Samajwadi Party. All three major players in the state of Uttar Pradesh and other states as well. And we also have with us Mr. Akshay Rout, former DG of Election Commission of India. Welcome all of you to Sansad Television. I'll begin with you, Mr. Akshay Rout, and let's first start by putting things in perspective here. Let's identify what we are trying to analyze and discuss in terms of the issue of candidates with criminal records in elections, be it assembly or parliamentary. Now we're going to focus more on assembly because the 5 states are headed for assembly polls.
Thank you. I think this is quite an important discussion, and I'm happy that the representatives of all political parties are here. And you just mentioned the last 5 elections. And in the last 5 elections, going just by the affidavit of those have been filed by the candidates of political parties, 52% of them, those who are winning candidates, out of the about 800 candidates who finally won, 52% have criminal antecedents. And 30% of them have very serious criminal cases on them. So it's a problem.
And this is cutting across all party lines, Mr. Rout, right?
Of a manager's perspective, but I think the political perspective and the judicial perspective is very much with the Supreme Court, because they are besieged of the matter and they have been given directions time and again, making good interventions to make sure that there are certain good things done to decriminalize politics and election. But have they been sufficient or not? That's, of course, another question. Perhaps you are debating that. But I just gave you an extent of what has happened in the last series of 5 elections, and we have a new series of 5 that is going on at this point of time. And believe me, you just mentioned that how UP is a big state and big problem, and there have been some type of criminal political nexus, as we often refer to in certain areas of the country more. But in a state like Kerala, if you're talking about literacy, awareness, and other human development parameters, the criminal antecedents of the winning candidates was 71%, which is much more than the average of other states. So it is a more complicated problem than perhaps you will think it to be.
Okay.
And definitely there is always a discussion going on. And so far as the Election Commission of India is concerned, it perhaps has a regulatory limited role. All the roles cannot be on the table of the Election Commission of India. It wants to have a level playing field. It wants to keep away money power and muscle power. Muscle power is quite connected with the criminality part, which you just mentioned, and things related to that. See, what they can do in terms of intervention is to make sure the polling booth, make sure that the votes are not stolen, bring in EVM in case of booth looting of the past, and try to do expenditure control. These are things which are clearly in the hands. But when a political party nominates a candidate and gets him or her into the election field, and there is an understanding with the people, with the electorate about whom to vote for, and they come with their agenda and present the agenda. And many times, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, possibly, people are winning who have criminal antecedents. And part of it can be also mentioned in connection with vendetta between mutual political parties or political contestants. I mean, they just to debar or keep someone castigated in the election arena, there may be cases that those can be genuine cases which are of the flimsy nature. But there can be also cases which are truly serious. So how do we navigate in this? Perhaps political parties need to do an introspection while fielding their candidates. That's the most important one. And the antecedents which are now being declared in terms of affidavit. And let's all hope that these are true. In fact, there are complaints that some are untrue, some are not being given properly, etc. I think that is
we'll look at all those aspects, Mr. Rout, and you've raised pertinent questions there. And if you look at the figure also, it looks like much of the onus also lies on the political parties, and we have the representatives from the political parties here. Let's listen in from them. I'll start with you, Mr. Sinha, and not only the extent of the problem, which is pretty much evident to all of us, but also the fact, as Mr. Rout was pointing out, that it begins with the political party nominating a particular candidate with a criminal record for a particular election in any assembly constituency or parliamentary constituency. So it begins from there.
The party democracy is based on intense competition to secure votes, to secure power. In that process of competitions, political parties are trying to win the maximum number of seats. This is the core of the problem. But in Indian democracy, we have a history that when political parties intervened in democracy to purify the democracy. As Bharatiya Janata Party, I'm telling you, the Bharatiya Janata Sangh is the previous form of Bharatiya Janata Sangh, now Bharatiya Janata Party. We always believed that politics should be purified. It should be purified on the two levels. One, the internal democracy in the party. Second one, that consolidation of the people. If the political parties are doing both the jobs, then you can minimize the problem. You cannot end the problem completely. I agree with the previous speaker, but you can minimize the problem. And in that regard, Election Commission get the support of the political party. That is why the Jayaprakash Narayan, M.B. Tarkunde, they have formed the committee apart from the state, and they were the first people who suggested political reform to curb the muscles power and money power. But here is a core question as far as now election in Uttar Pradesh. So I'm concentrating and focusing on Uttar Pradesh. I'm giving one example. Samajwadi Party naturally will tell that there are a number of BJP candidates who have this charges, but I'm giving one example, which is an eye-opener. In Kairana constituency, Samajwadi Party declared a candidate, Nahid Hassan. He had 24 cases. And as our former speaker said, that there can be two categories of cases. As some light cases, shallow cases, that if I have been charged by a person in Bengal that I was trying to incite the riots in West Bengal, where I have not visited for 5 to 6 years. But I am in the eyes of law, I am a criminal. Because I am on anticipatory bail. The person who had not visited West Bengal, there is a case against me just to curb my opinion. In 2007, there was a case. So there can be cases of political activists. I am heroing and I was arrested, there was a charge. But Nahid Hussain had 24 cases. They are serious nature, extortion, and all kind of the ills of the public life. Then Samajwadi Party had to change its candidate. The court rejected his plea for he was contesting election, so he should be given he should be freed from the jail for the election purpose. So his sister was given the ticket. Now this case, whether it is Samajwadi Party or the other party, a question of democracy. What kind of democracy we want?
Indeed.
In Uttar Pradesh, the Samajwadi Party, one candidate in 2014, there is a history. He declared, he said to Varun Gandhi, I am not taking his name because he's not in the fray now, that I have the cases, number of cases more than your age. Means he had 43 cases, and he said that Varun Gandhi's age was lesser than the cases he had on his head. So I think that he's right that there should be self-introspection, but moreover, what I want, if you don't have internal democracy in the party, And it is decided by one individual sitting in the drawing room on the whims and wishes. I'm giving other example. There was a news in the
No,
newspapers, and one of the
we'll come to that
so-called
example as
progressive
well, Mr.
channels.
Sinha. Mr. Sinha, I'd like to, I'd like to ask you to hold your thoughts here, because since you mentioned already one example, and this is right now we're talking about two aspects. One is the willpower of the political parties to go ahead and strike this problem at its root. One, and two, second, which you mentioned, is the internal democracy in the parties. Now, there are two other political representatives here as well. Let's listen to them also, then I'll come back to you. And I'll start with you, Mr. Tiwari, since, Mr. Sinha cited an example from your parties and in this election only. These two questions. One, the willpower of the political parties to take a stand on this issue. And two, why do the political parties, keep coming back with candidates of questionable antecedents and more specifically criminal records?
My greetings to you, the viewers, and the fellow co-panelists. I will just quote from a published magazine. एक हिंदू के खून के बदले आने वाले समय में हम प्रशासन से FIR दर्ज नहीं करवाएंगे, आदित्यनाथ डिक्लेयर्ड, बल्कि कम से कम 10 ऐसे लोगों की हत्या उससे करवाएंगे. This is January 27, 2007 at the Gorakhpur railway station. Adityanath, member of parliament, multiple times from Bharatiya Janata Party. If you look at the kind of criminal track record he has, as per the charges against him, it is terrorizing. Another article presents another example of 3 decades of a similar track record. Ajay Mishra Teni had enmity with my son Prabhat Gupta with respect to recently held panchayat elections. Santosh Gupta wrote in a complaint on 8th July 2000. Prabhat was Santosh's eldest son, and in broad daylight at 3 p.m. near in front of many people, Ajay Mishra Teni shot my son. 21 years later, on 7 July 2021, Teni was sworn in as Minister of State in the Bharatiya Janata Party government, another magazine published. This is the state of affairs at the highest level. Adityanath ranks in top 3 or top 2 leaders of Bharatiya Janata Party, linchpin of their campaign in Uttar Pradesh.
But the question still remains the same, Mr. Tiwari, because there is a long list of such names associated with Samajwadi Party as well. Now, it's like, the round of allegations and counter-allegations seemingly will continue, will involve the Congress as well, will involve other political parties whose representatives are not on the show. The question is, when do we start taking the onus and start taking a stand against this particular issue that is not bringing in candidates with criminal record in the election fray?
My short answer is 2 things. One is that I welcome, both as an individual, as a political participant, as well as a party, the continuous steps that under the Supreme Court, under Election Commission, that are being taken to strengthen the citizen voice against criminals in politics. Second, my suggestion is that it is important that any time somebody is elected, they must file an affidavit that within 2 years, all the cases against them must be fast-tracked. And if they are found guilty in serious crimes, then they will have to step down. There has to be some force of law. If we have a clogged criminal justice system, leaders like Adityanath and Ajay Mishra Teni as symbols of success in politics, then the debates will not help.
Okay.
So there has to be real teeth in the action against criminals. And I believe that this real teeth should also be added by citizens across the country. In a country where there are social media influencers, so many platforms, it is important that there's a continuous movement of citizens and civil society. After all, Association of our Democratic Reforms is a civil society platform. It is not by a political party platform, but it has single-handedly helped so much conversation, so much dialogue on this matter. So I think that rather than looking at political parties who are culpable in this, we have to look at the vibrant democracy of India, as well as continuous steps that our institutions are taking in this regard.
So you're suggesting it has to be a multifold initiative, not only involving political parties, but also the institutions as well as the public. Ms. Amee, Yajnik, I would ask you the same question. Of course, there can be a list of candidates or there can be a list of names associated with all political parties. But let's talk about solutions here. We're already almost 15 minutes into the discussion, and let's try and find solutions in terms of how do we deal with it. Yours is the oldest political party in India, and has ruled for many years as well. Of course, there will be a lot of allegations against your party also. But the question now is, how do we now start finding solutions? And the onus, much again, lies with the political parties like yours.
Yes, every political party is a responsible party. Every political party who comes to power has to give good governance to the country. It is also surprising that despite criminals being there in the fray in the elections with criminal antecedents, they win. And that also speaks about what kind of governance is going to be there with this kind of people who are at the helm of the power, and they are going to be lawmakers. The second point is that, yes, we have been a very old party. In the last 7 decades, we have put many institutions in place, Election Commission being one. Election Commission is supposed to haul up every candidate to see that he puts the fair, truthful version of whatever he is on the Election Commission site.
Okay.
And every citizen should have access to that information so that people know whom they are choosing and whom they are electing. That is the second point. The institutions are in place. The judiciary is in place. Today, there is a plea in the Honorable Supreme Court that, yes, parties should be debarred if they field people with criminal antecedents. Now, when these cases are to be taken up, I think there has to be one first step to be noted, that what kind of cases do these people face? Why would a particular person have 24 cases in his kitty? For example, when Yogi Adityanath ji came to power, he became the chief minister, he withdrew the cases unto himself. So he became the judge, the prosecutor, the judicial system himself. And he withdrew all the cases. Nobody took suo moto action at that time. That, well, you cannot usurp the powers of the judiciary. You are a chief minister. So he became a justice system unto himself. Now that is where we need a multi-pronged approach. That a criminal justice system where we are expecting a mother to get the custody of its child and is waiting for 10 years till the child goes to middle school. There is a mother, citizens who are waiting for the children to give them maintenance, because we have a Senior Citizens Maintenance Act. And now we also have these criminal antecedent people who have to be seen that their cases are dealt with. How do we deal with this kind of a situation where we need multiple solutions within the system? So I'm glad the Honorable Apex Court is listening to this matter, should take up the matter and come out with very, very possible good solutions, so that there is no entry point for candidates to be fielded who will be having criminal antecedents. Why have a fast track court? Why should there be a separate court for them? What is so great? They are lawmakers. They are going to give governance to the country. And so I think the parties should start seeing that they do not field candidates who have got criminal records.
Fair enough, Ms. Yajnik. Those are the points. I'll take them again. And let's have a short round again of 2 minutes each. I'll start with you, Mr. Rout, since you mentioned about the limited authority with the Election Commission. Now, you would have heard the representatives of political parties here, all three of them. The good part is that all three of them are assuming the responsibility that political parties do have that responsibility, that action should be taken in the first step itself. But they're also mentioning that there should be a multi-pronged approach, and the Election Commission should also get perhaps more authority, more powers, and a much simplified system should be put in place. Do you agree, Mr. Rout? One, and what can it be? Quickly, if you can tell us in 2 minutes.
Yeah, because it is very important to hear from all the panelists who represent important political parties that this problem is almost a pandemic. And there was an acceptance of a sense of urgency. And I was not talking about less of authority of the Election Commission of India. I was talking about the roles which are different, go into various buckets. And there is an acceptance that there has to be a moral introspection by all political parties. That's also very good. I'll give you just one more, how difficult the challenge is. Like, I don't have figures for 2019. Let me just for 30 seconds give the figures of 2014.
Okay.
In fact, 2014, out of the elected employees who were re-elected in the parliament, in Lok Sabha, 43% have criminal record. And out of this, 18% added more than what they had in the previous election.
Okay.
So that's a very complicated problem. And please let us understand and believe that the election commissions, and as directed by the Supreme Court, and it is working out reasonably well.
Okay.
The affidavit system has been made so systematic recently that even the time periods have been framed by which the affidavits have to be self-publicized by political parties.
Okay.
And not only they have to give reasons for why they are fielding a candidate who has so much of criminal antecedents.
Indeed.
And they cannot give winnability as a reason, which is typically the one which political parties generally
The norms are pretty much in place there, which you're pointing out, Mr. Rout, vis-a-vis the Election Commission of India. But let's look at other aspects as well, Mr. Rout, it's always about taking that stronger action, having that willpower. You were earlier mentioning the judiciary. Ms. Yajnik also mentioned several steps which have been taken and several observations which have been given by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is, seized of the matter right now. One suggestion which has always been coming in, Mr. Sinha, and that's a question which I would like to put to all three of you from the political parties, is that shouldn't the political parties themselves, and you're the ruling party in the center right now, take the onus, make stringent laws, perhaps give more powers to the Election Commission, or put in place a robust regulatory mechanism?
We cannot put the onus on Election Commission. It is not the state. A state is constituted by the political forces, and political forces are represented by the political parties, which comes into power. So it is very difficult to seek support from the Election Commission to purify the politics. It has a limited role in technical sense, in political sense, in constitutional manner. What onus is on our political parties? I said that Bharatiya Janata Party's basic concept was to purify politics, value-based politics. And when there is no internal democracy, and everything is done on the whims and wishes of a political leader sitting in the drawing room, without any parliamentary board meeting, without any election committee meeting, without any democratic process in the party, then things deteriorates. And in a competitive party system, when things deteriorate, it is, he rightly pointed, Mr. Rout pointed out, it is like epidemic. It spreads, it is infectious. And I am telling you that Samajwadi Party, no membership, no local committees, no elections, internal democracy, one leader and one party and one decision. Congress Party, the party is confined to in a family. Three people declare. Priyanka Gandhi herself declared the party chief minister letter she withdrew the comment. So in Bihar you see RJD, the one. So in TDP
that's a very pertinent point, Mr. Sinha, and that is something which will have to be dealt with by political parties.
I'm just completing. In that regard, I'm telling you that political parties have to take two decisions. One, democratizing itself. You cannot support and strengthen democracy without remaining democratic. So we have to strengthen democracy by adopting internal democracy, and Bharatiya Janata Party is a model before every political party.
So internal democracy is the key.
Second thing is that Jayaprakash Narayan called for the partyless democracy because he was bounded by the party's discipline. So here is that party has to start a critical self-introspection, and he has to go to the people. And I also find that there is one lacuna, inaccuracy in our democracy. Previously, we had people like Jayaprakash Narayan, Vinoba Bhabhe outside the party system. They used to indoctrinate the people, empower the people, which was a check and balance on political party. So beyond the political parties, we have lesser number of political activists who are doing political activities.
That's the essence there, Mr. Sinha. I get your point. We're running short of time, but let's take a quick concluding comment from Mr. Tiwari and Ms. Yajnik as well. Self-introspection, internal democracy apart, Mr. Tiwari, would you agree to this point that, perhaps more strong tweaks in the existing laws also need to be put in place?
I think a systematic change, which is in the criminal justice system, is not foreseeable. But what is foreseeable is immediate action if somebody gets elected, as I suggested. As far as the democracy is concerned, I don't think democracy can exist in a vacuum. If you look at state of democracy in India, we are on Sansad TV. In the last 8 years, there have been more Sundays than sittings of the parliament. 48% of all ordinances passed between 1998 to till this date were in the last 7-8 years. Laws are framed, repealed, counts in Rajya Sabha are cheated. The nation is cheated. So I think that when we look at democracy, the internal party democracy is essential. But look at our basic tenets of democracy:
Okay.
judiciary, media, the way the parliament is functioning, the executive itself, the federal structure itself. There is no space in democracy today that has not been election commission, that has not been dented by the blind chase of power of Bharatiya Janata Party.
Okay.
And when we talk about criminality, it is important that corruption is also included in criminality. I mention Bharatiya Janata Party not because they are our opponents, because they are the bellwether party in the Indian political system today. By their own admission, they collect roughly 3,000 crores a year from unclaimed sources as donations. They brought in an opaque system of electoral bonds. So I think that as bellwether in Indian politics, Bharatiya Janata Party has systematically diminished both diversity and democracy in India, and as a result, internal party democracy is a very small feature.
That seemingly, Mr. Tiwari, is your response to what Mr. Sinha was pointing out. But if I take the key elements vis-a-vis the discussion which we are having, is that you seem to agree with one part here, that a multi-pronged strategy needs to be adopted, and just a tweak in the laws might not be sufficient. Ms. Yajnik, quick concluding comments from you, ma'am, in terms of what is it that we can do. Political parties, we've already spoken about. What is it that we as Indians should do?
I think, first of all, when a political party says that when we come to power, we are going to give you good governance and we follow democratic principles, I think every citizen should look at the track record of that particular political party. That when you're talking of democracy, when the main ruling dispensation is talking about democracy, it is far, far, far from truth. So every citizen has an onus. You are casting your precious vote for a person who is going to make laws for you, bring good governance for you, bring fairness, bring democracy. If that party is lying to you, not telling you the facts, not telling you the truth, not sticking to the democratic values of this country, and not following the constitution, every citizen should think twice before casting his vote.
Okay, well, that is something which we will have to leave to the voters of not only these 5 states, but the voters of the entire country as well. Thank you so much, Ms. Amee, Yajnik, Mr. Rakesh Sinha, Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, and Mr. Akshay Rout for sharing your views and insights. As our experts were pointing out various aspects, this indeed is a complex issue, and it has several aspects which need to be looked at, which need to be tackled, and there has to be a multi-pronged strategy. Of course, political parties, as their representatives were pointing out, will have the first onus and will have to look within and take conscious decisions as well, and the other institutions will also have to pitch in, including voters like you and me. And this round of allegations and counter allegations between the political parties is bound to continue. That is what the essence of a democracy is as well. We'll come back again on Sansad Television with a different topic. Till then, keep watching. Thank you.